to prove that they belong in Group A by taking on the giants of BLG.
I am kind of sad that LGD don't have that extra pressure on them now, though. The pressure's off, which makes it easier for them to play. I wanted to see what these teams were like without that. So, BLG, they have themselves an Italy comp. They have themselves the Senna, very, very powerful for Elk. And on the other side, though, Meteor on the brand has been powerful in the past.
Senna composition, not something we see all too often anymore, to be honest. It feels like it has somewhat fallen out of the meta. But we'll see how this one is going to go down, especially with Knight taking the Lucian to the mid lane. We've seen a lot of Lucian bans coming on through. Now there is a little bit of setup. I guess Nidalee heal probably does proc the passive for Lucian, right? I don't know if it counts as a buff.
So. I think it should do. It gives you the extra attack speed too. So yes, that should be the case. And we've seen one other mid lane Lucian, and that was Yukai on Ultra Prime. So it has been around the LPL. Maybe this is where it's come from in regards to getting those scrims. It means that you can use this as another AD mid laner alongside the likes of the Corki and the Tristana. It opens up the champion pool a lot. So I wonder whether BLG are experimenting with something here. If Knight can win lane against the Corki with the Lucian, that will be really, really potent for them in the future.
It certainly would. And I mean, Lucian mid coming back in would be something I'm fully on board for. Lucian mid is an exciting pick to watch, and it's a very high skill expression pick as well. We get to see Knight piloting that today, so we'll see how he does on the pick, as well as Shun having a signature pick in that of the Nidalee.
You know, also, the Lucian mid, it originated from the LPL too. It came out, I think the first time we saw Lucian mid in, like, real prio internationally was MSI 2016, where I think Shaoye played it on RNG versus SKT, and he played it against Fake Oriana and even got himself a solo kill or two in that matchup. That's the first time I remember seeing it. So it returning back to the LPL faithful with a lot of mid laners that like those dynamic mobile champions can help. Shun going in.
He's going for an invade here, a Meteor respecting it. Backs away. There is a ward there, and JinJiao moving over, but I think Shun might be able to just smite this one away, although he's in the brush. The Pillar of Flame comes down. Who gets the smite? I'm not sure I even saw who got the smite. I think it was Meteor in the end, as now a stun comes through. Haichao trying to join the play, but Knight might just get first blood here. One more auto, and it's Shun to pick it up. Knight gets the heal, but in comes JinJiao to turn it around once more. Haichao with another kill, and BLG sent packing out of the jungle. JinJiao wants a little bit more, but Shaoye can't get over to the play.
And well, all of this is happening on the Nautilus is just tangling with Shaoye, so the Nautilus doesn't get value in the same way that the Leona can do in the early skirmishes. LGD, we said there's no pressure on them. We said, hey, you're already in that upper group, Group A, no pressure, and they are playing as though they really don't have a care in the world. Really talented skirmishing right there.
I love to see them challenge as well. I love to see them say, no, BLG, you can't just invade us. You can't just take our buffs. We will fight you tooth and nail. Let's take another look, as it looked good to start with as Shun dodged the Pillar of Flame.
Yeah, but then also Meteor dodged out on the Senna W, that last embrace. If that root hits, this fight is completely over already. The fact that Meteor has got himself a couple of MVPs recently, has himself such high early impact, and dodging out on important skill shots really changes things, because then JinJiao can arrive to the play and clean things up. Now that means that the mid lane matchup, we said the Lucian wants to be dominating lane there. Well, with the kill and the assist over to the other side, Haichao very happy.
He certainly will be very happy with that one. It's a 200 gold lead for LGD. Nothing too crazy, but Meteor wants to continue increasing that as he goes for an invade onto the Krugs. Been potentially in trouble, but I don't think that this is going to be much of a dive angle against the Cassante with Flash and not that many minions to work with. That feels a little dicey to me.
Yeah, I think that Ben also one of the real masters of weak side. I feel like one of the things which has plagued BLG at points is when their bot lane has to play weak side. They much prefer having Shun in their lane because they can make aggressive plays like this and continue to do that without worrying about walking into a 2v3. Bin, on the other side, though, has been so good at just being a fantastic laner with no resources thrown into his lane. He's much more happy with that side.
Shun hunting for a spear here onto Haichao, who face checks towards him. I think wanted to place a ward, finds a Cougar instead. Actually sort of wins the trade against Shun, but Shun's happy to take damage. He'll heal up off of the camps. He's okay with taking a tap.
Yeah, it was the shorter range spear, so it doesn't get the full damage of the maxed range Nidalee spear. Ben's not going to be able to stop Burdol from going back to base, and he'll be teleporting back in.
It was level 6, actually, and Burdol was level 5, so that could have been a kill, honestly. If he face-checked into that brush, the all-out available, that could have been dangerous for Burdol.
Nerves of steel. That's what we'll say. Nerves of steel. Burdol holds his ground and gets back into lane with the Balmy Cinder and the Tear, so he's more than happy now with that stage of lane. Loads of people roaming in mid lane. You can see BLG really trying to influence this lane, but you've already given over the early steel caps to Corki, so Lucian can't get those easy burst trades in the same way. I think that early skirmish might impact this game a lot more than just the extra gold on paper. The fact that it means that the Lucian can't get as good laning phase doesn't help.
Well, it certainly doesn't. I'm just thinking more about... Hang on. Grubs are up. I'll talk about that later. As LGD start this one off, it looks like BLG will just concede this. This will be 3 Grubs towards LGD. Thinking more about this Lucian pick and how it fits in the composition. With Senna especially, which...
Yep.
You know... It makes sense from a lore perspective that these two champions would work together, but like you've got Senna, you've got Nidalee, and Nautilus and K'Sante all set up for Lucian's passive. So even though during the lane phase you won't necessarily get that much value out of the passive, later on, especially in the mid game where you really want the value out of Lucian anyway, you still do get massive value there. You still do get your passive activated. So
yeah,
honestly, I really like the pick in this context.
I mean, thinking about it, every single champion for BLG can help with that. Ben's got some immobilizers. Nidalee, you've already mentioned the Senna. The Nautilus obviously good with that too. The Vigilance part of that passive alongside the Light Slinger really can be activated. So what you want is to have Knight present in the plays while all of those things are influencing him. If you can get the heals, shields, and hard CC down, he'll be getting a lot of extra burst damage, but he needs to be relevant for that to happen. So LGD already getting themselves something in that early laning phase for Haichao does really help. I think that Haichao on the Corki getting himself that early steel caps, as we said, can really help in that regards. One thing which I found out the other day in regards to Haichao is that apparently, I don't know what tone it's set in, but he's sometimes referred to as Chaovi in the mid lane by the Chinese community. I don't know whether that's totally a meme. I like his playmaking. Don't think he's quite at that level just yet, but you know what? Fingers crossed he could show some good performance there, you know?
He's not quite got the CS numbers for that title just yet, but hey, in a couple of years, maybe. He's certainly a player that has started to separate himself from the pack a little bit on this LGD roster. He has been a big driving force. I mean, the fact that Meteor got the MVP in the first game of the previous series, I felt Haichao was a little bit robbed there, because I feel like Haichao's LeBlanc in that game was absolutely fantastic. He has been having a really good split for himself, and I'm hoping that he can keep that performance up. As I said, I was talking about this before the first series, which was really the wrong time to talk about it, is Shun. Perhaps this is the wrong time to talk about it as well, because Shun's going for an invade as I speak. And this will be the red buff actually resetting. Good work by JinJiao to try and delay things, but I don't think it will save the buff. There's no smite available right now. Shun is going to go down here, I think. That's going to be the Zenith Blade landing. Meteor flashes, Pyroclasm bounces off of the Dragon, and that's the passive on top. Oh, the Primal Surge is last second, the heal from Elk. Shun actually survives in the end of things. Now JinJiao, the target, as Cullen comes through onto Haichao as well, dodging the rocket, but the piercing light sidestepped as well. A lot of abilities going both ways.
Got a tense standoff between the mid laners, and Shun just about gets away with his life as well. Thought that JinJiao and Meteor would have pulled another skirmish out of things in that bot side jungle. Bin pulling the ult here, not really doing much, but getting a bit of a trade back at least.
So I just want to apologize quickly on stream. Oh, hang on, we're going to dive. Okay, Shaoye just gets caught by on. Nice little hook underneath the tower. Probably shouldn't be going down there, but you know, these things happen. These things happen. I do just want to apologize on the stream. We are working on the game sound. It should be on its way, hopefully, any second now. We'll hopefully be able to bring you some game sound. We're also casting without game sound, which is harder than you would imagine, honestly.
Yeah, maybe we should try doing some of the sound effects ourselves. We could try that. That's the rock of the Skada. We can try and add to the entertainment value.
Yeah, let's maybe do that when something's actually happening on this. You said that, and then we just watched JinJiao walk through the jungle alone. Not many sound effects to come through there.
You know, I feel like we can explore our talent as Foley artists. You know, the people that do the sound effect for the for movies and stuff. Turns out if you break celery, that's one of the more like the crunching sounds. That's one of the big things they use for injuries.
Yeah, breaking bones and whatever. Did you know? You know Zach, when he
no, not this.
when he first came out, I think everyone knows this story, but when he first came out, there was an interview with one of the Riot Foley artists, or I think maybe it was D-Man that had spoken to them, or we're talking a long time ago, right? Some of his sound effects, the like squelching for when he jumps around, was like dog food inside a condom being thrown at a wall, or something along these lines. Really gross, but at the same time hilarious.
Hey, it works out.
Speaking of gross and hilarious, LGD get themselves 6 grubs.
Yeah, that is really gross. If they ever get access to a tower now, BLG are probably losing that entire tower. So BLG, they haven't been able to answer with an early dragon. It's 11 minutes in. No dragons have been taken. LGD, they are completely fine with the gold that they have across the board right now, even though BLG have an advantage overall. I think the fact that Shun is even with Meteor and the mid lane matchup is also even. Most of this gold lead is currently in the support role, which you somewhat expect from the center and the Nautilus. I think LGD, they could have been blown out in mid-jungle. The fact that they haven't been is still okay for them. They're within acceptable margins right now. Need to make sure that they can use the grubs and they can make sure that BLG don't use the gold lead that they have in that Nautilus right now to great effect. But I think they're okay for now.
On trying to clear the wave on this top side, Meteor is in the area, spotted on the control ward. Wave cleared. JinJiao is around as well. He's going to try and go for a reset here on, but I don't know if he's going to get away with it. Okay, Rocket at the last second from Haichao. Recall immediately channeled again, but there's no way he's getting home on this one. On trying to survive underneath the tower. Elk and Knight are on the way. On just has to survive as long as possible. Depth charge across all 3, and JinJiao has overstepped. On gets away with things, and now the chase down comes through. Oh, the Might blocks the route from Elk, and it means the other 2 can escape.
So, that's a bit of a hero play from the Mights of all things, but LGD, they massively overstepped. There was still the flash before that play, could have had the flash center Q, and they still had the center ult. The fact that On managed to get out without dying, and they didn't even have to use the big tools available to them, is very telling about how LGD overestimated the damage on the top side dive right there. And we did just say, hey, you want to be using the grubs, but also not allowing that Nautilus to get value out of the earlier tankiness, which was afforded by the earlier farm for that champion. And it feels like they failed at the first port of call in regards to that one. BLG going to keep Lucian now in the top side of the map and try and get Knight some plates to get him ahead of the play.
I feel like I'm watching Do and B here as On clears the waves mid lane on Nautilus, as that will be. Top plates going the way of both Elk and Knight. So off to a decent start here for BLG, because all things considered, even though there's been some positive plays for LGD, it's still almost a 2,000 gold lead right now for BLG. They are still off to the races. They've still got a Cassante that's getting strong. They've got a Nautilus that's farming, so he's absolutely chilling. We've got 50 souls on Elk, looking towards about 100 by the 20-minute mark, and it does pick up pace as you go. So he's pretty much on track as well. So far, so good for BLG. We'll see if they can actually pilot this composition later on, though, with this Lucian in the mid lane.
And also the Nidalee in the jungle, which look, every time this champion's on the Rift, you just think about, well, you know, we've seen a lot of AP carries. Nidalee, you sometimes hesitate to call them an AP carry because it's so hard to get damage down in the late game comparative to other options available. Shun, of course, has always been a player of this pick, even when it's been out of meta. Played it a lot last year when a lot of players weren't going towards it. So he's very experienced at it, but it has to be a strong game from him to justify the pick again. Even though he's great at the pick, the team has to be prepared to use it.
Certainly do. Of all of the teams, I'd say BLG are one of the teams that you'd expect to be the most prepared to use it, since Shun is such a aficionado on the pick. But we'll see if they can pilot it later on. Herald up onto the map. I've got to say, casting without sound cues is way harder than I expected it to be. I don't realize quite how much I rely on the sound cues. Bin takes a chunk. As we're posturing for a fight here. Knight still up in the top lane. This is 5v4 to start off with. And On is caught out. Solar Flare to find the CC chain. He's pretty tanky, but not tanky enough. And Shaoye now stacking up on the Zeri. Bin turns it around, though. All Out comes into play and he dashes back into the team. Flashes to safety and survives, but Elk has gone down. Knight next on the chopping block is Shaoye. He's got an even bigger Gatling gun, and Haichao finishes the job. That's Herald for LGD.
It's 4 for 1, and BLG, they fall behind now in the early game. The Herald's going to go over to LGD, and a huge amount of gold just went over to Shaoye on that Zeri. alongside a lot of the other members. You look at Meteor, 2 kills now suddenly. Really feels like BLG took off. They bit off more than they could chew. They didn't have the Lucian here at the start. It is an extended 5v4. Yes, On is fairly tanky. Yes, you have the Senna with the heals and shields afterwards, but you don't have your Lucian. This champion in the mid lane, which we said, hey, they need to be playing it well around this. Not many people are playing the Lucian right now. Knight is slow to the fight, and it feels like that damage difference is what wins the day there for LGD. This could be the start of a snowball here from LGD.
It certainly could be. You can see the coaching staff over the moon with that one, and rightly so. And that is now the gold lead, 1,000 in favour of LGD. They've got 6 Grubs, they got the Herald as well. The only advantage for BLG is that one Drake. Next one spawning in 25 seconds.
Yeah. So, if they can stack up those 2, maybe it just kind of gets rid of some of the doubts with BLG, but, you know, they do have some really powerful early game champions. The Lucian you expect to be lane dominant, the Nidalee you expect to be dominating the jungle and assassinating at the 1 item mark. Well, now's the time to show this. You lost that last fight, losing the next fight in a row, and I think we start having that conversation about LGD. They're playing with no pressure right now, and they might be playing to a standard which really threatens BLG. They almost took a win off of them in the first round robin. If they could kind of solidify that now and get themselves 2 fights back-to-back, they could really showcase that they do belong seriously within Group A.
TP going to come on through. We've got no game sound, so I think we should just do the game sounds for this team fight. Since there are absolutely no stakes in this game anyway, what difference would it make? But there's no team fight. There's no team fight. LGD just muscle their way in. And they will grab the Drake for themselves. Herald down in the mid lane. Next team fight, though, I say we go for it.
It's like there are some of those rare opportunities where you said, like, oh, we can finally solo cast as a caster. Sometimes you're sat there and you're just waiting for those big moments. You're going straight in. And we get ourselves a fight under the turret.
Oh, the...
Pew, 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 pow, pow.
Oh, he's pulled in.
Oh, he's going down.
I mean... There's too many things going on to realistically do any sound effects aside from just doing explosions. But there were many explosions.
Yeah, I feel like this is the problem we've got. As trained eyes and trained watchers of League of Legends, you can sit and just about decode what's happening in the team fights. Layering over like a dozen sound effects, a little bit harder.
I feel like it's... Yeah, I don't know how to... I suddenly have respect now for the people at the Riot offices that sit and... voice the sound effects for each game that's happening around the world each day. I mean, there's just so many games to cover, but they really are talented.
Yeah, you know, they're the real workhorses behind this. We just said, hey, you know, LGD, they need to find themselves another winning fight. They managed to get themselves the Herald into the mid lane. Yes, On does go forward for 1 kill there, but it's a 1-for-1, you know. Yeah, we'll call it that for now.
Flashes for the last auto as Nautilus. Fantastic stuff. I mean, this game... definitely feeling like a solid game for LGD. Again, the stakes are as low as they could be, but I'm loving every second of this because LGD are bringing it to the best team in the league. Remember, this is the team that was our first seed going into Everside. This is our reigning champions. And LGD coming in, having the best split we've seen in a long time from them. Now making it into Group A after that first series today. And now bringing it to BLG as well. Remember, if they win one game against BLG, it didn't matter if WE won Game 3 in the previous series. LGD would still have made it into the upper group.
Yeah, they would have had at least a tiebreaker. At worst, they would have found themselves in a really powerful point. And, you know, this is why I was saying I'm kind of sad that we didn't get that kind of level of tension, because that would have meant that we saw LGD with extra burden of execution on them. They're now playing with absolutely a care in the world. And that's a really good thing. In one way, we get to see maybe the more... a higher level of play from them without that stress weighing them down. But I would have also liked to see how they dealt with that kind of situation where it felt like they were in an uphill battle, but their fate was still in their own hands.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping that the rest of this game devolves into like what we would see in scrims, you know? Because I feel like, you know, I mean, BLG probably do want to keep their clean record if they can. They lost one game. They probably don't want to lose a series. But it's game 1. You can afford to mess about a little bit in game number 1.
Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of the Chinese community has really been ragging on BLG for not taking games seriously. Like, folks, they've had Nexus to Nexus to Nexus versus WE. They lost another game versus WE as well. They got pushed by LGD, and that was in the game with Meteor with the Zyra 20-minute Baron and that same series. BLG have looked like the worst of the undefeated teams to me, by quite a long way. There are the caveats of, are BLG just not going to say asleep at the wheel. Have they woken up completely just yet? They came back from MSI. This stage of the tournament, you're against teams which are just categorically worse on paper than you. They were the Pool 1 team heading into this group, but a lot of people want them to wake up. They don't want to be kept asleep.
JinJiao caught by On here, and it's a knock-up going through onto Meteor, but he doesn't die, and Burdol's found a flank, that's out, but he flashes over the wall in the uphill, doesn't find his mark, Shun in the back of the pit, will go down. LGD start the fight strong, but Knight wants to answer. It's LGD now in the pit, and that's a flash forwards from Bin. Railgun across the team's up, but Shaoye arriving on the play. Skarner goes down, Bin looking for more as he dives onto Shaoye. On looking for a hook, and he won't find it. The flash comes out from Haichao as BLG now in full retreat. JinJiao wants to turn it around. The Zenith Blade is there. The Ultra Shock laser on top as well. Elk behind enemy lines. Is this a trade for supports here? It's absolute carnage.
Well, you said you wanted to see what happens when these games devolve into scrims. LGD, they win themselves arguably another fight. It feels like it's fairly even in terms of the kills, but this is during BLG's big power spike. They have the items on the Lucian and the Nidalee which really thrive at this point. I feel beyond this, you're going to get to the point where Meteor, Haichao, and Shaoye start to take over much more easily. This play starts with LGD going in, committing a teleport, but not everyone is there at the start of it. You can see huge turnaround damage from Knight and Elk. The Pyroclasm does get some value, but it's not necessarily the big bounce which you would have liked across the entirety of the team. We are starting to see how hard it can be to execute some of these team fights, though, from BLG. Very, of course, mechanically proficient team, but the champions they've drafted themselves do require a higher level of execution. And you can see that as LGD have such a powerful Zeri, they can't allow Shaoye that room to maneuver.
So now, Drake started again, this time LGD on the scene, and it's looking to be their second Drake. Oh, the reset. Oh, that is brutal for LGD, because Meteor has been tanking this whole time. He's getting kind of chunks, but doesn't fully reset, and LGD will grab their second Drake. And now BLG kind of forced to retreat a little bit here. And remember, this is a composition from BLG that sort of wants to be snowballing. You know, you got a Lucian mid, you got a Nidalee in the jungle as well. Kind of want to be finding yourself advantages. Burdol finds Bin here, the Q3 to get the knockback, the W as well, and actually separates LGD for a second. Solar Flare dodged, and now BLG coming alive in the fight. On pulled in by the Impale, CC'd up by Burdol. On his tanky, but not that tanky.
And you can just see again, BLG, the damage which somehow floods into their backline from the Pyroclasm, from the Extendo Beams from the Zeri as well, is making sure their backline doesn't have a clean fight. Now BLG, they're stuck behind the pit. They can check with traps and the Javelin tosses, but the Baron is going down.
Baron start by LGD, and BLG want to contest it. There is vision in the pit right now. Shun is in the area. This would be dangerous to flip it, but they're just going to go for it. In fact, they just engage upon Shun, so he can't even contend. Railgun across the team. Q3 lands onto Burdol, but in the meantime, Shun is down, and LGD finding fight after fight.
Yeah, it's looking so clean from them. They're just following up on the picks. Their front line is very strong. I think particularly Burdol and JinJiao are just tanking up so many skill shots that someone like Shun on the Nidalee is finding it hard to be that assassin you really want to. Meteor's brand as well. Really just overflowing damage into the backline. The Pyroclasm onto one target is so effective because when BLG are hit by something, they're retreating back with the bounce on them, and it means that everyone starts getting burned down beyond that. And we're looking at a point now where BLG are getting beyond their power spike. LGD have a gold lead. They have the Baron. At this point, you're asking, okay, BLG, how do you come back from this? They're definitely putting themselves into a very difficult scenario. At this game state, you expect LGD to win.
LGD have been on a bit of a win streak. They've been looking pretty good. And now up against BLG. Can they make a win happen? BLG kind of against the ropes at this point, dare I say. 3,500 gold lead for LGD with the Baron, and the siege begins in this bottom side, sending Burdol to the mid lane to try and use those Baron minions there at the same time as Bin tries to get an engage, but just gets massively chunked for it. The Pyroclasm doing so much work across the BLG health bars. Knight starting off onto Burdol here. The culling forces a flash out from the LGD top laner. Shun moving over as well as Knight looks for a little bit more. Burdol gets through the wall, but here comes JinJiao to try and answer, but the Zenith Blade goes wide. Shun caught up, trying to escape through the jungle now as the chickens run back into the picture. I thought that was Skada for a second. It was a chicken.
Knight's dead?
Wait, Knight died in the meantime. That must have been an Ultra Shock laser, I guess. This is getting weird.
BLG, this team, we said they are 5-0, but really should they be? They've had some suspect games, and LGD want to make sure that they're not just suspect games, they are lost games. LGD, they walk away with another great skirmish, and yeah, I think it was just a W on the tower. He spots the recall coming through. Well, Shaoye snipes him down. Knight, probably just caught shopping.
You hate to see it. You just hate to see it. Knight just caught out looking at the shop screen. Disaster for him. I mean, look, Shaoye will be happy with that one. That's a clip he could send to his grandparents. That time that I one tapped Knight from off the screen. Fantastic stuff. 6,000 gold lead now for LGD. They're absolutely cruising through this game as well. It doesn't even feel like they are being particularly pushed by BLG at this point.
Yeah, you know, they're a team, they're already in Group A, but getting a solo kill on Knight, that can just be the highlight of your career. It doesn't matter if you lose the game now. You've done that stuff. You're completely happy with it. BLG might just be seeing themselves pushed the furthest they've been so far. They did lose a game versus W in that first round robin, but LGD, this team, they've gone from strength to strength. I think that particularly for me, huge steps up from Meteor in regards to his carry potential. He's looked really at home on the AP carry junglers. Similar to someone like Hacker, I think that both of these junglers have risen up together. They were players that before this meta, would sometimes pull out some different champions, but now it feels like it's just much more accepted to do that. And the whole team has kind of followed suit with them. I feel like also the level of consistency from Haichao and Shaoye as well really can't go understated.
Certainly can't. And it has to be said, you know, BLG, the one game that they lost so far was against WE, as you said before. Well, LGD 2-0'd WE. If WE can take a game from BLG and LGD can take 2 games from WE, then in theory, by logic that doesn't really make any sense, they could win this series. LGD look for an engage, but the Impale goes wide on flashing that one.
So BLG really being hemmed in, some defensive vision, but that's about it. Big problems now is that On is not tanky enough to stand in the front line, which means he needs to bring the Pyroclasm likely into the back line. That's not how you win League of Legends most of the time. Brand, if he ever gets significant damage off, is probably going to win a team fight at this point. So BLG need to find a way to find probably a pick outside of the 5v5. Onto Meteor if you can. He has a stopwatch. That's hard, but someone separate away from the 5v5, if they can manage it, should be the goal. They're pushing in.
Trying to make siege happen in the mid lane. Solar Flare goes in. Are we looking for a fight here, LGD? They're outnumbered. It will be a mid-tier 1 tower taken. BLG stands strong. Not worried about the threat of a team fight there. They commit to taking the tower at least, but they lost the Drake regardless. Soul point for LGD, and it's in trade for 1 tower, but honestly, I don't think that 1 tower really matters at all for BLG.
Normally, mid lane out of turret is a big objective, but, I mean, you're right. It's not going to change that much. LGD are probably just going to still group up, keep pushing, looking for the big grouped up fights and stop BLG from splitting them apart. They have hugely powerful AD carries at this point. If they just walk down a lane, BLG have to answer. They can't exactly walk away from that one. And one of the extra bonuses that BLG had was they pushed in, dropped some wards, but even they were just swept out a little bit on one side. They have 1 ward in the river, and that's the furthest vision they have.
I'm really scared because, like, I've seen BLG win these, you know, and I really want LGD to finish this one. I really want them to get this win on the board, and I kind of want BLG to be punished for more silly play and these, like, you know, they've not really been playing at maximum, right, so far. I do feel like they should not go undefeated, and LGD could step up to the plate, but I'm scared because the second one person slightly missteps, you know BLG will pounce on that. You know they've got the damage to absolutely one-shot someone. It's whether or not they can find it. And so far, LGD have been playing so well to stay as a group. And instead, they're the ones looking for a pick. Knight being pushed by the rest of the team, but they can't really close the gap with the culling in play. And Knight dashes back to safety. It's just Burdol taking a chunk. Hook goes wide from On. Shun now. Pyroclasm goes in, and he's forced to Zhonya's. Surely they can move in here, but he flashes out to safety. And now suddenly it's the rest of their gang being bullied. Bin the target. Shaoye goes forward. Knight forced away on the backside of the play. Shun throws some spears. The health bar's low, but nobody dies.
Meteor is absolutely frying the front line, and it's threatening the back line at the same time. Level 16 Pyroclasm shreds through BLG. They don't have the HP bars. They'll teleport back in towards mid lane, but they're still going to have to be on a pretty quick timer to contest Baron.
Health bars are low as well on Shun and Elk. There's a good amount of sustain here, but the Baron is so low already. BLG, they've got to try and find the fight instead. Railgun for shields across the team here. Depth charge onto Haichao as they're just going front to back. Burdol might just go down, but he dashes into the pit. Hook from on to find the kill. Spear goes into the backline as well as Haichao tries to chase out Shun and look for a return kill. Shun gets into the brush. One more auto will do the trick, but the rest of the fight is won by BLG, and Shun gets out with his life anyway. Suddenly, Haichao's alone.
You were just saying it. BLG win these games anyway, somehow. They managed to take down almost all of the team of LGD. Only one Baron buff left available, and that's for Haichao on the Corki. BLG, they managed to get the fight, but what can they do afterwards? They spent a lot of resources and time to go towards that, and Haichao still walks away with the Baron buff. I think if LGD can still use this Corki to go into a lane and force BLG to 5v5, there still will be issues, but BLG showcased, once again, why you don't count this team out, ever. Usually go into this play. This is after the Pyroclasm's been used, after you've got the big Zerians, Leonorals also down. If they have those ultimates, I think this fight is absolutely won for them, but they don't have the same fighting tools. BLG find a window to win a fight while those tools are down.
Fantastic fighting coming out from BLG. Shaoye forced away on the top side. I guess Elk just flashes after him yet to finish the job. I was kind of keeping my eyes on Shun in the previous play, but been on Elk, finish the job on the top side and set up for BLG to try and close this gold gap, but it's soul point spawning in 50 seconds time. It's a negative 1,500 gold lead, power play, sorry, from the Baron for LGD here, and BLG grouping up, ready to try and contest this Drake.
Yeah, and LGD, they haven't managed to push out a wave strongly enough to force BLG away from this dragon spawn. It's in 40 seconds. You will get one wave pushed across the other side of the map by Haichao if he wants to, but he needs an item completion right now. He won't be able to use that Baron buff to really set up for LGD to quite the same level. Dragon now up in 20 seconds, and now the thing is, BLG, last fight, you won while the LGD ultimates were down. Can you win a fight while they are still up?
That's the question for BLG. Can they find their fight? There's a ward behind in the back of the pit there. Potentially could be a TP ward, but it's only Knight with TP up, so you're not really expecting much of a flank there. On finds a hook onto JinJiao as he comes in. Death charge comes on through as well, and they one-shot him. That's the front line that just gets obliterated, and now LGD are scattered. Burdol flashes for the impale. Maybe a chance of the show comes in onto Bin, and that's the front line down. Burdol pushing forwards as a route, lands from Elk, and Knight just about escapes with his life. Spears coming out to try and dodge everybody. Knight chased by Burdol, but Burdol can't quite close that gap.
So, big ultimates used from LGD, but it's only the one kill. Some chunks, yes, as well. But does that mean that BLG can't contest the dragon? It would be soul for LGD. I think it's going to get burned down.
TP is in. Soul for LGD as On looks for a fight. Shun jumps in onto Haichao, but he's stuck in the back of the pit now on his own. Elk tries to get in to heal his jungler and gets him out of dodge, but in the meantime, On has gone down. Burdol is TPing behind the BLG players. Elk forced away. Shun 1 HP as the players stick together, heal each other up and try and stay in the fight, but they're surrounded, corralled, and will be taken down. Elk has nowhere to go as he burns to a cinder. LGD might just have done it.
BLG were criticized for maybe showing a bit too much disrespect. I don't think this is quite disrespect. I think this is LGD slapping about the reigning champions of the LPL with these death timers. I think LGD can march in with the Ocean Soul as well, buoying them.
Nymeara thinks that LGD might just be the best team in the LPL right now. You heard it here first, folks. I don't know if that's representative, but I'm sticking with it. Knight trying to dive underneath the tower on the top side goes down. LGD have just about done it. The Impale for a couple of bonus kills on the back of everything. BLG, gods can bleed. LGD find a game against the leader of their group.
Super slick team fighting and skirmishing from LGD. Huge props over to Meteor on that brand as well. I think that pick was game warping. And yeah, I think BLG You know, I said, hey, well, is it just the disrespect? LGD played really well, but the question is still there. What is happening with BLG? Why are they allowing games to get into this state? I think as soon as that bot side skirmish happened around Red Buff, which put Haichao into a great spot on the Corki, the early game plan fell apart, and they couldn't recover from it. BLG, this is not what we expect from a historically dominant team regionally from the LPL.
Yeah, no, this is not what's